Okay guys, now I'm going to talk about CACD. So, first of all, I explain what CACD means. So, from this word, we can understand that continuous integration means assume that there is a source code called A dot pi, and we have given some simple thing like import, which is a random dot randint 1 to 5. So assume that this is a script, of course, ignore the indentation. So this is a script that we have, and we have a test case as well for it, a test dot py, and import py test, and we write a script, and somewhere in this we are checking if the random value is correct or not. The term generated. And then we have a script here as well. So assume this is a source code that we have. So from this source code, a developer makes this change and then he adds another comment here, or another print here. So normally how can we predict the changes, or how can we make sure that the change is made by a person? If it's a single person, it is fine. Of course, he knows what changes are being done repeatedly so that he can understand. But what if it's this entire source code is made using multiple people? At that situations, we need something called version control. So with version control, we make sure that there is a concept called commit. So first change that we had before this is a commit, which means it was done by me during this time at this situation, and another change was done by another developer, which is this comment and a print, which is added here. So when we have these changes, automatically test cases should also be updated accordingly, and here also changes will be made by people. So these are commits. So what does continuous integration means from this is, there will be a scenario where when we create a test case, or when we create a script like this, eventually that will be converted into an application. So there will be multiple steps going on between from start to end, and eventually that change that we made will result in an application development, and then that can be used for production. So since this is a complicated process manually, if you do it for each of the changes, it's very difficult, right? So that's why continuous integration and continuous deployment occurs. So continuous integration here means each commit that we make here will go through a certain process where we have a certain steps which a DevOps engineer normally creates, and then he uses that information and steps to validate the application's presence. For example, here we have this case, and it's one scenario where we verify that the developer who has made these changes have updated here as well, so that the things work fine. That's what continuous integration means. And when once it's done, then we know that the integration is done, but the application is not yet created. We have verified that the change that we made is correct. That's where continuous deployment comes in, where the changes that we made will be given another archive file. So what are archives? Archives are basically the files or any kind of repository resources where an application which is being created will have its own unique files. For example, here assume that we have an exe file for this step and 2 or exe. So these files will be automatically created. This is for Windows, of course. If it's for Linux, then it's a different thing. We have a binary file that we can come into that voice related changes later. But these are the archives. So these archives are being created for each successful step. When it fails, we have a mail. We will have to inform the people, right? So how will we inform the people? Either by showing it on the portal, which we will be creating for this, or else we will just directly mail the people who have developed the script so that this change that we made is being failed, so that they can update it later, so that that changes along coincides with the Python test that we have. So this is how continuous integration works. Same for continuous deployment as well. So continuous deployment, if the integration part everything is done, then continuous deployment will make sure that the changes that we made in our case are used for production. So if everything is done, this is now the development part is done, now I have to launch this application. Now we have this executable files, right? So if we have everything in the release phase, then all these changes will be moved towards a different branch. Yeah, I have to mention another thing, branches. So a developer will develop in a developer branch which they will name accordingly, and then they will move it towards the master branch or the main branch. So the main branch is what we are using for production. So this is how CI/CD works, and it's highly effective when we have to automate things, and everything that we configure here will at the end of the day be recorded in the Git. So Git will be acting as a source of truth, and from that all changes that we make, everything will be noted down, and that's how the CI/CD pipeline works. This step that we have done from start to end, this is called a pipeline. So this pipeline at the end of the day will determine the application's quality, and this data can be used for people to for the clients or any kind of for the users, or this entire CI/CD pipeline will be used as a proof of work for the maintainability and scalability of the product which we have created. So that's how CI/CD works, and this is just a sample and basic outline of why CI/CD is needed. Alright, that's it for today for CI/CD. So if there are any doubts or if there are any suggestions, please mention in the comments so that I can update myself accordingly. So yeah, thank you.